Hello, it is April 11th. The sun is shining, and we are on episode 101 of Three Things with Ian. On today's episode, and you might hear or see some soccer balls in the background. My son is playing in the backyard, so you might hear a thump, 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 and hopefully it doesn't break through the window with a soccer ball or himself. Anyway, on today's episode, we are talking the Switch 2 and more largely just what it means for next gen consoles in 2025. We'll talk about Apple, the crazy market swings of the stock market a little bit. And this is not a financial podcast per se, but I do like talking about interesting stories. And then lastly, spring is upon us. What does that mean? What does it mean to me? I will share my thoughts with you. Excuse me. Getting hungry here. All right, so episode 101, we've eclipsed the century mark. Feels pretty impressive. Story number one: Nintendo Switch 2. We really can name our systems with creative names. The Switch 2 is coming out soon, and it has, with everything else, been rocked with some turmoil in terms of reciprocal tariffs and deals and embargoes and all kinds of craziness. But what I really want to talk about is the fact that we seem to be on this runaway train of price increases. Famously, and I think this is true, although it bears saying slowly, and I'm always a little bit dubious, but apparently when Sony and Microsoft and Nintendo create their next-gen consoles, they sell the actual consoles at a loss, and they make up the money with game sales and accessories. I've always found that a little hard to believe because I don't know how much different a video game system is compared to a desktop computer or a laptop, because I believe that those two products, the companies Dell, Apple, whatever, Toshiba, they do make some money on the actual product, the hardware. But anyway, consoles are notorious. They've always held that line, saying that they lose money on the actual consoles, and they make it up for in the games. The Switch 2 is looking at being priced at $450, which it's a bit of a sticker shock, but I think that if you play a lot of video games and you plan on holding this system for a number of years, I historically hold on to systems super long time. I bought a PS4 like 8 years ago, and I had the two controllers they're original to the system, and the first controller finally broke like last week. So I got a lot of hours out of that, but the price point that is most egregious to me is not necessarily the console price, it's the games. $80 for Mario Kart World. We lived in a world where for many, many decades, the price for a game was like $49.99. And then we got to the point where we were like $54.99. And then a couple like games, games take a lot of energy and time and commitment and money, right? The big titles, the AAA titles, the Grand Theft Autos, the Halos, they have a symphony orchestra behind them. They're paying a whole bevy of engineers, thousands of hours of overtime. It's a multiple year endeavor. I get that. I'm 100% fine with admitting to you and the world that creating a quality video game takes an inordinate amount of effort and energy. But I also don't love paying $80 for something, especially if I don't know if I'm going to love it. The days of rental games are kind of over. You're kind of like you're kind of forced to make a decision. You can read some reviews, but at the end of the day, it's like $80 for a game. Is it worth it? Better be a darn good game. So the Switch 2, so the Switch is sold really well. Nintendo is known for making, I think they're best known for their games. Their hardware is always kind of behind the times a little bit. It's not like the most next gen. But apparently Nintendo is sending almost all of its Vietnam-built Switch 2s to the US to build a stockpile, because everybody's really scared, and rightly so, there's a lot of money involved, about the reciprocal tariffs. So apparently a third of the Switch 2s are built in Vietnam. I'm guessing that means that they're also constructed and built in other countries. A country that before yesterday's pause had been dinged with a 46% tariff by the Trump administration. Now it's been lowered to 10%, but you never know with that guy. He doesn't know what's going on. So Nintendo should conceivably be able to build up an inventory quickly because the tariffs are a little lower. June 5th release, they're kind of withholding information. It might cost more because Nintendo says that with the uncertainty, as with all, uncertainty is the name of the game right now, unfortunately. April 11th, we live in a world full of uncertainty. And anyway, what are you gonna do? Are you gonna buy the Switch too? Are you a fan of Nintendo products? I do like the games. Like I said, in terms of the next gen specs, the Switch is woefully behind. $450 price tag. Is it too high? Consumers will still line up. There's a guy that's already lined up, and it's 2 months ahead of time. So people will buy this in droves. There will be mostly positive reviews probably, but I'm mostly alarmed with the games themselves just going up and up and up and up and up. All right, that's my first story. Second story, Apple is once again the world's most valuable company after, this is a crazy stat, gaining $400 billion yesterday. And by yesterday, I could mean Wednesday. In the recent past. After Trump's 90-day tariff pause, Apple had a meteoric day. It rose 15% in one day in a 7-hour trading period since that was the best day since 1998. They literally gained $400 billion. And yes, I realize it's not speculative, but it's not or real, but it's a different thing. Oh, that was a soccer ball. So their $400 billion gain is larger than these 6 companies' market cap put together. One of them is McDonald's, guys, at $217 billion, and then Starbucks, Adidas, Reddit, Domino's, and Macy's. So their gain was bigger than those 6 companies combined. So this is just crazy. We live in a world of uncertainty and huge market swings. And just, it's a roller coaster of emotions, mostly negative. And it's just one of those stories that just, it is literally jaw-dropping. When I read it, it just didn't make any sense to me. It shouldn't really make sense. It shouldn't be a thing. We should not have swings like that. They're not good for anybody. I'm all for a market rally to end a slide, but it's just insane. So Apple obviously is very much interwoven with the Chinese economy. 90% of all iPhones are produced there. So despite the surge, Apple stock is still down 5%. So take that for what you will. The other story, excuse me, the other story within the story is that Apple hurriedly shipped 600 tons of iPhones on chartered jets in India before. They're moving stuff around. Everyone's just trying to play the game and get ahead and just avoid payments. So anyway, I don't feel optimistic about anything right now. I'm sorry to be that person, be the bearer of bad news, Debbie Downer, negative Nancy. But the $400 billion market gain is just ridiculous. I also really don't have, like, Apple's one of those companies where it's the world's biggest company, but a lot of people just don't have any Apple things. If you don't have an iPhone or an iMac, like, yes, they make other products, but you also won't have an iWatch then, or whatever this thing on your hand is. And like the iPod and the just, that's not really a thing. So really, Apple, if you don't have an iPhone, you're not really in the ecosystem. I'm kind of an outsider. They do make quality products, don't get me wrong. I guess headphones too. You don't have headphones if you don't have the iPhone. You don't have the earbuds if you don't have the phone itself. So, good Lord, that was a big bang. Anyway, those are my first 2 stories. Let's talk about spring. I picked up another part-time job at a nursery, a place that sells plants, not children. And I went into the greenhouses today, and just I was reminded again of just the wonderful. For me, I'm very drawn to odors, to the odoriferous nature of things, and the pungent smell of walking to that nursery, that greenhouse, and the wet soil, and that fresh loamy scent, that earthiness, and the promise of new life, and the things that are green and beautiful and bright and colorful. It just made me really happy. I just stood there and kind of smiled as the humidity nearly choked me out. And I'm constantly just reminded of how beautiful the world looks when it once again awakens. Where I am in the Midwest, there are still very little budding on the trees. Things need to be in greenhouses because we're still experiencing some pretty low. It's pretty cold at night. Farmer's Almanac, notwithstanding, I don't know what the spring looks like. It does remind me, though, speaking of that, just pontificating off the top of my head here. I remember reading something about an old Vermont Farmer's Almanac, And back in the day, decades ago, maybe a century ago, they were having hard frosts up until June. Just crazy. The thing about the spring is that you wake up freezing, but then there's that promise, there's that scent in the air, there's that bird chirping, and there's the thawing of the ground and the unfreezing of the mind, I guess, and just the promise of new life, the daffodils, the daisies, the perennials, and you're buying more annuals to plant, and it's a really fun time. And I have this tree. I'll do an episode live outside next to this tree. It's that important to me. I have this tree. I don't even know what kind of tree it is, and it always blooms around May 4th, and that means something to me because that's like Star Wars Day, May 4th. May the 4th be with you. And it varies, right? There's a range, but and it's a tree that has a very fragrant, pungent bouquet upon the budding about these little pink blossoms, and it doesn't last for long, but I think the ephemeralness of it, right, the fact that it doesn't have that much time with us makes it all the more sweet, I think. And it just means a lot to me to just be around that tree. I usually sit at the base of it. Now that I have a dog, I'll bring Pippa out there to kind of experience it too. Yeah, let's just enjoy being outside again, and just be appreciative, and just take advantage of the opportunities that affords us. Soccer starts for me this weekend. I'll be doing soccer until Memorial Day. Multiple games, opportunity for just being outside, the smell of grass, just get some dirt, put it between your fingers. And just experience it, get the grit of it, and the fact that this is the glue upon which all of everything else is built upon. I think that's really important. So maybe I'll read you a poet. Maybe I'll find some poetry that speaks to the greenery, to the newfound awakening of the greenery of the world. I really like that. So I'm looking forward to having the nighttime lows be above freezing, so that we don't have this constant frost and thawing, and but by 10:30 a.m. you do get that sun. We have these long stretches of daylight now, and that's just also really fun, where you can have a whole day inside and have a whole day outside. You have that much time, right? So anyway, we talked about Apple and market swings and Nintendo Switch 2 and the price of things going up, and what it means to live in a world just full of so much uncertainty. The thing that I come back to is the certainty of spring. That is what I'm going to go back to, and that is what I want you all to try to do alongside with me here. So let us be good to our plant friends and to our human friends, and I will see you guys tomorrow. Good night.